Dr. Iverson, I presume.
Dave Iverson here with Cowboy State Politics. He is changing the dialogue. He is changing the dialogue in this state.
Every time you can't turn over a rock in Wyoming without hearing David Iverson talking about politics. You're all over the place, man.
Be one of the greatest spokesmen for conservative values in the state of Wyoming. Let's put our hands together for the radio voice, David Iverson.
This is going to be a big one. Here we go. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to this special presentation from very, very high above all the puerile and vacuous forms of Wyoming mainstream media. This is Cowboy State Politics. I, of course, am your illustrious host, David Iverson, firmly and permanently ensconced behind the only silver Cowboy State Politics microphone and broadcasting to you from the base of the Bighorns at the Cowboy State Politics studio in Sheridan, Wyoming. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to the program. Happy Saturday. I've been telling you all week that this episode is going to be a big one. It's a must-see, a don't-want-to-miss, a be there or be square type of event. From my perspective, it absolutely is. I tell you all the time that milestones are important, and boy, has Cowboy State Politics hit one. Cowboy State Politics. This program has been downloaded over 250,000 times. 250,000 downloads.
That's great! That's what I'm gonna stop!
By my count, no other podcast in Wyoming has done that. Not a single one. And I did it all without any help from the liberal, mainstream, pedantic, vacuous Wyoming press. In fact, they've done everything they could to keep this program from being heard. Oh, I'm not saying that they intentionally tried to suppress this program, or am I? Just think about the big stories that Cowboy State Politics has broke. Drag show trainings at the University of Wyoming. The Wyoming Caucus, Clark Stith and all of his redcoat pals breaking Wyoming law by campaigning on the Capitol grounds. Or perhaps every single legislator that voted against having a special session to deal with the vaccine mandate taking campaign money from Pfizer and the Wyoming medical PACs. Then there was this program scooping the New York Times by exposing that Liz Cheney was courting Democrats and asking them to cross over in the primary election. Cowboy State Politics was the program that broke that story. All across American media, they posted a picture of the flyer she sent out. Do you know where they got it from? Cowboy State Politics. And then there's the story of the cow pie crawling into bed with the Wyoming caucus and calling them a partner. Naughty, naughty. Since then, they've tried to explain it away. They call it their top advertising package. Then riddle me this. Riddle me that, oh cow pie that goes splat. Why have you not written one article that's been critical of any of the redcoats? Well, because they're paying your bills. And at least in their primitive establishment media brain, if you don't report on something, then it doesn't exist. I've got bad news for you, cow pie and the Pravda on the Platte. This program has exceeded anybody's expectations with 250,000 downloads. And including this one, 630 episodes. Put that in your Frontier Republican pipe and smoke it. Oh, there's a blast from the past. That's where this program started. Frontier Republicans. Yet another idea in the dustbin of Wyoming political history. Another plan of theirs that fell flat on its face. I guess I shouldn't say dustbin, because the people involved never went away. In fact, they're still involved. They just kind of had to change the name a little bit and become the Wyoming Caucus. And that's one of the places where all this civility crap got started. In fact, one of the reasons that got me going on Cowboy State Politics is I kept seeing all this dumb Frontier Republican bull crap, and it irritated me. So I started the podcast, and the very first person that I interviewed on the program was none other than Redcoat Frontier Republican founder Gail Simmons. Come to think of it, to mark this momentous occasion, we should take a little trip down memory lane. This little soundbite is from one of the very first episodes of Cowboy State Politics. It's one of the first times, among many, that I got to expose Gail Simmons as the fraud that she is. And let me just set the stage for you a little bit. Of course, the very first person I interviewed on Cowboy State Politics was Gail Simmons. And then a couple of months later, there was an article in the Pravda on the Platte. After she had told me in the interview that the Frontier Republicans completely believe in the platform. In fact, a couple of their members helped write it. Then she told the Pravda that really the Republican Party platform is just aspirational. You know, those are ideals, something to reach for. They're not really something that you should follow. Here's that soundbite. In an article entitled, "The Wyoming GOP's Rightward Trend is Not Unusual," published today in the Red Star, Nick writes, quote, "A handful of big names in Wyoming politics have begun to raise concerns with the direction of the Wyoming Republican Party in recent months. Now I wonder who these big names are in the Wyoming GOP that Nick has been talking to. It couldn't be the Frontier Republicans, could it? As a matter of fact, it is. Really, the only one he left out is our good buddy Rod Miller." But let's skip to the real juicy part of Nick's article. Quote, "According to Gail Simmons, a member of Frontier Republicans and the Sheridan County GOP, the effort was intended to ensure people actually weighed in on the type of candidate who would represent them in the state party. In this case, the choice seems to be between two camps, those who regard the party platform as gospel and those who merely identify with the ideals outlined under those platforms. Platforms are aspirational," says Simmons. "They are a statement of what the party believes to be ideal." I wonder where I've heard all this talk about the party platform and how important it is. Oh, wait, it's from the December 9th interview I did with Gail Simmons about the Frontier Republicans. Here's a clip in her saying how important the party platform is to the Frontier Republicans.
We absolutely agree on, for example, the platform. So I'm always kind of perplexed, for example, in your podcast when you said that we don't support Republican values. To me, those are reflected in the platform. And I don't know anybody that I've associated with as a part of Republican Frontier Republicans that don't support the platform. And in fact, two of the members were on the platform committee.
Don't you just love audio interviews? I know I do. Gotcha, Gail. And when you run for a precinct position again this year, I want to make sure whomever your opponent turns out to be has that audio. You know, really, the platform, that's just aspirational. You know, really, they're ideals. Honestly, my friends, that first interview is a gold mine. Admittedly, I didn't really know what I was doing during that interview, and it's kind of rough, but the results, my friends, are just timeless. Beautiful, even. And thus started the Cowboy State Politics audio archive, which, by this point, after 4 seasons, is immense. And since we're walking down memory lane, and I'm kind of tooting my own horn a little bit, here's a little soundbite from my appearance on the Sean Hannity radio program. I bet you didn't even remember that I was on that. This is from May 7th of 2021, 3 very short years ago.
The radio show the mainstream media loves to hate. This is the Sean Hannity Show.
All right, 25 till the top of the hour. Thanks for being with us. 800-941-SEAN. You want to be a part of the program. All right, Wyoming. David, next. Sean Hannity Show. I've been out there. Speaking of Liz Cheney, we were just talking to Newt Gingrich about her. I was out there. There's this, her dad was part of a group called Rivers of Recovery. I'd never been fly fishing before, and I've never been since because it's awful. There's a million bugs. And you got to work. I like to throw a line in and wait till the fish bites, and then I pull it in. I'm a lazy fisherman. Anyway,
Sean,
David, thanks for checking in. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Sean. It's a pleasure to be on your program. I'm a big fan.
Thank you very much. What's going on? Beautiful, beautiful country out there.
Well, thank you. That's why we live here. The main thing I wanted to talk to you about, the speaker mentioned that Liz had every right to vote to impeach Donald Trump, but it's that vote that is creating all of the problem with Wyoming conservatives. She didn't represent our values.
Unfortunately, they wouldn't let me plug Cowboy State Politics, but that's okay. The segment lasted about 10 minutes on Sean's nationally syndicated radio show. Those first two sound bites were just kind of fun. I'm celebrating today, and it's my program, so I'm going to do what I want. But as I mentioned, and as all Cowboy State Politics listeners know, this program has broken some serious news. Here's a soundbite from an episode that aired on October 25th of 2021, entitled, "They're in Bed with Lobbyists." This one you should never forget. In October of that year, the Wyoming legislature had a special session to deal with vaccine mandates. A number of Wyoming legislators who are allegedly liberty-loving, freedom-fighting individuals voted against having a special session. And I couldn't figure it out until I started digging into who these people are. Here you go.
Unfortunately for those folks, I have a list, a long one, and I'm going to tell you all about them and every single name that's on it. You see, all of the people that are on my list don't think you're smart enough to make your own healthcare decisions, so they want to do it for you, which is why they voted against the special session. Well, and the other reason why they voted against the special session is all but one of them took campaign money from the pharmaceutical industry or the Wyoming Education Association. And the biggest donor of them all is, you guessed it, drumroll please,
Pfizer vaccine.
Pfizer.
Breaking news on Pfizer's
vaccine for kids ages 5 to 11.
But new data on the Pfizer vaccine.
It's the kind of news everyone was hoping for when the FDA first approved Pfizer and BioNTech's COVID-19 vaccine last year.
Pfizer Pharmaceuticals, Cigna, and the Wyoming Hospital Association.
Wow, huh? And a number of those people that are on that list of taking money from Pfizer and then going to Cheyenne and voting against your rights as an individual to make your own healthcare decisions are now the very same ones that are asking you to vote for them again. Unfortunately for all of those folks, this program is a little bit bigger than it was in 2021. Amazing. Just amazing. Well, there's a walk down memory lane of some of the episodes that helped with those 250,000 downloads. But none of that is possible without you. Without you listening and supporting this program, there'd be no reason for it. And I owe you my deepest thanks. It's probably hard for you to imagine what a big place in my heart that all of you occupy. I never would have thought how important it would become to me to be able to sit behind my microphone and talk to you whenever I want. I know that you have become a giant part of my life, and I thank you for including me in yours. One of the things that absolutely makes my day, and it happens this way every single time, is when I see something posted on the internet, whether it's on social media or someplace else, of something that I have mentioned on the program that you have picked up and ran with. All of you make me know that I've made a difference, and hopefully you understand how profoundly grateful I am for that. Thank you very much. We'll get back to what I really wanted to tell you about this morning, as if 250,000 downloads isn't exciting enough. I've got something else up my sleeve, and we'll do that after a completely obnoxious profit timeout. This 630th episode of the 250,000 downloads of Cowboy State Politics is brought to you by Morton Buildings. They've been with me from the beginning, and if you're looking for a building to put on your property, whether it's an outbuilding or a garage or a barn or a roping arena or maybe a big gigantic warehouse for your business, the two guys you need to talk to are Nick and Jesse at Morton Buildings. They are the best at metal building construction. They've been doing it longer than anybody else around, and they do a much better job than anybody else. So it doesn't matter what type of building you've been thinking about, give Nick and Jesse a call. 307-674-2532, or you can check them out on their website at mortonbuildings.com. The calendar may say it's spring, but my friends living in Wyoming, you know that only means spring-ish. And it still gets cold in spring in Wyoming, so you definitely want to make sure that those ears of yours stay nice and toasty warm. The best way that you can do that is go to the website newtrendhats.com. They have a wide variety of hats for both men and women, so it doesn't matter if you want a stocking cap or one of those farmer caps or whatever they call it, you'll sure to find one that fits your liking. So go to newtrendhats.com and keep those ears of yours nice and toasty warm. Now, on the other end of your body, your feet, well, they're just as important as your ears, except, if you freeze your feet off, you can't walk anywhere. Well, the best way to keep them warm is to buy a pair of socks from the Buffalo Wool Company. They are the finest socks that I've ever put on my feet. Trust me, my friends, I've tried just about every kind of wool sock that there is, and the Buffalo Wool Company makes the best ones. So not only will they keep you warm in the winter, but they'll keep you cool and dry in the summer. So go to the website, thebuffalowoolco.com. Trust me, you are not going to be disappointed. It's election season, my friends. And if you want to reach conservatives or just about anybody else with your message, you should really consider advertising on Cowboy State Politics. I've got really affordable rates, and let's be honest, if you want to get elected in the Wyoming legislature, you probably need to advertise here. So shoot me an email. The address is david@cowboystatepolitics.com. Trust me, my rates are more competitive than anybody else, and after all, it's me. And it's this program, so why wouldn't you want to advertise on it? In exemplary, the following. The following advertisement was paid for by Reed Reisner for Senate.
I'm Reed Reisner, and I'm running for United States Senate because our politicians have forgotten what's important. They spend billions protecting borders in Europe and do nothing about our border. You deserve better. Wyoming deserves better. That's why I'm running, to serve you. Join me. And let's send new blood and a strong backbone to D.C. before it's too late. Go to reedreisner.com to learn more and join the fight.
And now, back to this 250,000 download celebration. All right, enough of the pomp and circumstance. What I really wanted to tell you today is that through a Freedom of Information Act request, Cowboy State Politics has obtained complete footage of what happened on the House of Representatives floor the afternoon of Friday, the 8th of March. That was the last day of the legislative session when they were wrapping everything up, and really the only thing left was to sign on the line and dot the I's and cross the T's. So really, there wasn't a lot for your representatives to do. So how do you suppose they spent their time? Waiting for the governor to come in with his Dr. Evil tie, waiting for Redcoat Albert Sommers to gavel them out for this year. What would they do with all of that time they had on their hands? They had a party, complete with dancing and chair races. After they spent $11.5 billion of your money, they decided to throw a party. And I have the video, and I'm going to show it to you too. Now, I haven't finished going through all the video, but the parts that I've seen, my friends, I have to tell you, they're pretty amazing. So we're probably going to do that on Monday's installment of the program, or maybe Wednesday. It depends on how much time it takes me to put a video together. But I'm going to show you the whole thing, and trust me, you'll be just as disgusted as I was. What I FOIA'd was all of the footage that you couldn't see on YouTube. You know, when they put up that blue screen that says the House will be in recess until the sound of the gavel, or the House will stand at ease, or whatever the heck that it says. But you couldn't see, really, what was happening on the House floor. So I FOIA'd it. And like I said, next week, Monday or Wednesday, I'll show it to you. To cap off this episode and to help celebrate the 250,000 downloads of Cowboy State Politics, the lovely Christine got up early and came to the studio so that we could have a little discussion. Here's what we talked about. To mark this occasion, I decided to drag the lovely Christine out of bed this morning and have her join me in the studio. Morning, honey.
Good morning.
Aren't you excited about 250,000 downloads?
Woohoo! Yay! You did it.
I did it. The first podcast in Wyoming to get 250,000 downloads. Frankly, it's a little overwhelming.
Yeah, I can tell you are just jazzed up this morning.
Well, you know, it doesn't happen very often, and I always say when you have milestones, you need to mark them.
Absolutely.
So what do you think? Give me your thoughts on this whole big achievement.
Well, this is definitely something that you've been talking about for some time. I remember sitting right here in the studio with you when you were constantly looking to see if you'd even hit the was it 200,000?
Yeah, it was either 200,000 or 150,000.
No, I think it was a 200,000. And you were pretty nervous it wasn't going to happen. And I was like, seriously?
Really?
Come on now.
Well, I mean, it's a big number. And honestly, Christine, I remember when 10,000 downloads was a big number, that I was super excited about that, because you see website, you see all those zeros and you get pretty excited. And now it doesn't even show any zeros. It just says 250K. So
well, that K is gold, man.
I know. It's amazing to me that even in a state as small as ours is, there hasn't been a podcast that's hit those numbers before. And maybe it just speaks to how small our state is.
Well, maybe. I got pretty excited the other day when I hit 1.5K.
Well, yeah, and I'm super excited about your podcast, too. You've had a lot of really cool guests on. You know, when I started mine, I had some guests, but really they were just local people that I knew, a couple representatives that I had met, and it took me a while before I got, some more prominent figures on the program.
Well, but I kind of have a larger pool of people that I can pull from.
Well, that's true. You did have, now who was the gal from England that you interviewed?
No. Well, she's originally from England, but she grew up there, but she's been living in the U.S. now, I want to say her early 20s. And, of course, got married and all that good stuff. So she's lived here most of her life, but she grew up in London.
So how did you get her on your program? I mean, for me, when there was somebody I wanted to interview, in the beginning, I had to, all except Gail Simmons, but everybody except her, I had to kind of pester them a little bit to get them to come on the program.
But it's Gail.
Well, I know. Now I know that. Now we all know that.
Okay. Well, how I met Jillian. It was almost a year ago, actually. It would have been mid-May of last year when I went on my first week of artist training with Redken, and we were at the L'Oreal Pro Lab in California, and this Pro Lab is actually really cool. If I could go into more detail about that, I think I probably would. But what was going on at this training center that we were at for Redken is that there was one section that had the newcomers, basically my class that was just starting week 1 of 3 weeks of artist training camp. In the room next to us, which is a much larger room, they had what they call Tier 3 artist training, which means as you become an artist, you move up your tiers, and it basically allows you, being an artist allows you to teach and educate for Redken. As you move up, it allows you to open up your audience and how you are as an artist. And Tier 3 and so on basically gets you backstage, and you're helping prep models and things like that for stage shows and things. One of the very first days that we were there in artist camp, our facilitators challenged us to do this Instagram post, which was completely out of the wheelhouse for all of us. And they sent us off to break and said that we had to have our lunch, do this podcast, what am I doing? Had to do this Instagram post, take a break, do whatever we needed to do, and be back in class in 45 minutes. And so here's Christine kind of panicking a little bit, and both classes were released for lunch at the same time. And Jillian she could probably see the fear in my eyes or something like that, and took me by my hand and sat me down and just really chatted with me and encouraged me. And I connected with her immediately, and that's how I originally met her.
Wow. It kind of sounds in a weird sort of way like my first meeting with James O'Keefe. And, I sat down and did an interview with him. During the course of the interview, and I don't remember if this part gets recorded or not, but I remember it very clearly. He talked about what it means to be a journalist, and, that one of your jobs is to expose what's hidden, to show people what they're seeing. And I think in some ways, that's kind of what you do. You had a video on your page. I think it was, maybe it was Tuesday or Monday, but it was this lady that had super, super long hair. And in the video, you've got the clippers and you're hacking off 2.5 feet of her hair. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it was really that long. In a lot of ways, you show people what they have hidden, what they don't know that's there.
Right.
One of the reasons I want to have you on the program this morning is while we haven't been together for the whole course of Cowboy State Politics, we had just met, and I was right in the middle of the University of Wyoming story.
Ah, yes.
So, first question, what did you think about that when I told you what the story is and I asked you to play a part in it?
Well, I don't know. I feel like, okay, back up here. So I do remember, actually, now that you have brought this subject up, that when you released the video or the podcast about this episode, I was in LA for week 1 of artist training camp. So that was I want to say it was May 15th or something like that. It just
sounds about right.
It sticks in my brain. My first question was, how?
Oh God, what have I gotten myself into?
Yeah, pretty much. How do you really want me to participate? How am I supposed to do that?
Well, I'm sure what was going through your head, knowing what the subject matter was, you're like, drag queens, University of Wyoming participate. This sounds like a bad idea.
I really wasn't sure what to expect, but it ticked me off, and I knew that the story had to be put out there because nobody else is going to do it.
Now, you did end up being kind of a integral part of the story because you videoed me confronting
Seidel.
President Ed Seidel. Talk to me about that.
I think that was probably the first thing I ever really did for Cowboy State Politics. And I remember that Ed was going to be at the Sheridan College for a meet and greet or something like that. Yeah. And you were determined to get to the college and ask him 2 questions, basically. We showed up, and I don't know why. Or maybe you asked me. I don't remember.
Oh, I think I said, make sure you pull out the phone and video this thing.
Is that what it was? I can't. Okay. So you finally got in and next to him and you were talking to him. And so I was videotaping him, and I did not know like my parameters. I didn't know if what I was doing was okay, if we were going to get kicked out, what was going to happen with that, or even really for how long to shoot the video for. And I mean, half of it, you can't even really see any interaction because he's listening to what you're providing for him. And then right before I was getting ready to shut it down, is when you had accomplished your goal, and he turned around and realized that I was videotaping him. And when I pushed stop is when I got that priceless.
That is beautiful.
Deer in the headlights look and
that
stuff.
made the whole video when he turned around and it was like, oh crap,
Yeah.
We've been caught. I bring this up for a couple of reasons. First, it was your first interaction on Cowboy State Politics. But this week, the university and Ed Seidel have come out and said, it doesn't matter what the legislature tells us, we're going to continue our DEI training regardless. So having seen that article, and actually I was on the air when you sent it to me, so I know that you read it. But having seen that article and having videoed Ed Seidel after he was confronted with some really horrible video, do you see the depth of the corruption in our
absolutely.
state?
Yes, absolutely.
That those people are going to continue with their agenda no matter what.
I think what really got me hot, again, and I'm pretty sure that you and Joey talked about this yesterday on the program, and I did not get a chance to listen to that yet, but the fact that first thing in the article, it says, that they did not get the funding that they wanted from the state, but it's still gonna be there. It's still gonna be funded, whether it's through private donations or whatever it was. And I'm like, seriously, that's how, I don't know if I want to say hardcore or how determined they are to keep this going with or without the funding. But at least now they're not using the taxpayers' funding for it. Is it still okay? No.
No, not at all. Second question. I've broken a number of stories since we've been together. Some of them have been pretty big. Some of them have been holy crap type stories. And have you really seen anything in the Wyoming media about it?
Oh, no.
No. Why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, we don't give away secrets. You know what snitches get.
That's true. The point I'm driving at is even though there have been a number of really big stories, like the Clark Stith's office during the legislature, you were the person that did a lot of the videos. Oh, sorry, I just outed my source.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. But we were sitting in the gallery, and you were the person that was sitting there taking videos of these people breaking the law.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about what you felt while you were taking those videos, while you were watching those people break Wyoming law.
I was excited to see how they were going to be used because I knew you had a plan, and I was excited. I was like, am I breaking the law by doing this too? But I knew I wasn't. But it felt like this energy of like, okay, I'm doing something that hopefully will spread like wildfire through the state, and people will get a chance to see what I'm seeing right here sitting in this chair while you explain what's going on in the video, of course.
Of course. Well, the truth is it did go like wildfire, but not in the way that most people would think. There wasn't a single Wyoming media source that picked it up. And the reason that we know that Trotsky Wolfson and all of his cohorts in the Wyoming media absolutely knew what was going on is the little intimidation by the police.
Oh, I know. The highway patrol.
Yeah. Nothing ever really came of that, but I think that it tells you exactly what you need to know about the Wyoming media, that they are totally in the pocket of the redcoats, and all you need to do is look at the cow pie and pick any article, and you'll see that giant Wyoming caucus banner on there. Well, any other thoughts before I let you go?
I am just excited to see what this next year. I mean, I don't know if I should say this on air or not, but I mean, we haven't even been together a full year yet.
I know.
And look what's happened. So what's going to happen in this next year? I mean, it is election year.
It is. And I only have one thing to say about that.
Oh, I think you got to stop and take a look at what you're doing here. I speak against this because it kind of reminds me of that fairy tale, Cinderella.
That is my all-time favorite soundbite.
You know, I think it's mine too, because every time I hear you play it, I chuckle a lot. And there's another one too of Biden that you've got, but those are my two favorites. So yeah, you know, it's going to be real interesting to see what happens between even now and January. And I'm super excited about it. And I'm going to just bring my A game whenever I'm with you and see what we can expose.
Well, and then we've got the big super event, like the statewide biggest social event in Wyoming. Yeah, July 20th. Yeah, we're getting married, right?
Right.
Well, Christine, thanks for coming into the studio early this morning. And I'll let you know how this whole 250,000 download episode goes.
Woo woo! Yay!
True international average of pressure.
That would be the one.
Thanks again for your support. Thank you for listening. I love ya. And that'll do it for today's installment of Weekend Update. Have a good rest of your weekend, and we'll talk again on Monday. But for now, from the base of the Bighorns at the Cowboy State Politics Studio in Sheridan, Wyoming, I'm David Iverson, and this is the one and only Cowboy State Politics.